Greetings, curious souls. Are you ready to explore the realm of the unexplained? Join us with Paranormal M, your ultimate destination for spine-chilling tales. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications for our latest videos. Story number 1. I had an encounter with the black-eyed children at work. I've been working the overnight shift at a 7-Eleven for quite some time now, and the other night, specifically on the 4th of April, I was going through my usual shift change routine at around 2:47 a.m. As I was wrapping things up, the door chime suddenly went off, causing me to instinctively look up. To my surprise, I noticed that the door was wide open, slowly creeping shut. The sight beyond the door, on the other side of my gas pumps adjacent to the air pump, startled me even more. There were 2 kids, a boy and a girl, just standing there. The boy was dressed in ordinary clothes, wearing a black t-shirt, while the girl had on a peculiar outfit, a white top half-dress with a black bottom. This caught my attention and a sense of confusion started to creep in. At this point, it was already 2:50 a.m., and despite my best efforts to finish counting the money quickly, the kids were still lingering outside. They hadn't moved an inch. I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was about to go off with this whole situation. Anxiety started to build up within me, and I couldn't help but notice that the hair on my arms stood up, as if charged with static electricity. I decided to step outside and address the kids, hoping to find out what they were doing alone at such an odd hour. "Hey guys, what are you doing out here all by yourselves?" I called out to them. To my surprise, there was no response. The lack of any verbal reaction sent a wave of fear crashing over me. It was a bone-chilling moment. The older girl, who appeared to be a year or 2 older than her brother, stepped off the curb and extended her hand. Her brother took it and playfully hopped off the curb, seemingly following her lead. "Come inside where it's warm," I suggested, hoping that they would take my advice. But as soon as those words left my mouth, something within me snapped and an overwhelming terror took over. It was as if I had turned a corner only to find myself face to face with a ferocious bear. I had never experienced such an intense fear in my entire life. I mustered every ounce of strength and pulled myself back inside, clinging to the door handle as if my life depended on it. The moment I crossed the threshold and entered the store, the fear subsided, providing me with a much-needed sense of relief. I hurriedly ran behind the counter, seeking refuge in its perceived safety. From that vantage point, I watched the 2 kids as they crossed over to the next curb at approximately 3:05 a.m. They seemed to be heading toward a nearby building. However, much to my bewilderment, they never emerged from the other side. It was as if they vanished into thin air. The whole experience left me shaken to my core. I had been off work since that encounter, but now, as time approached for me to return to my shift, an overwhelming terror gripped me once again. I couldn't help but feel an inexplicable sense of dread. It was as if I had a premonition that something terrible awaited me at work. The weight of this feeling bore down on my chest, consuming me with worry. Even when I'm home alone, my cat's been hissing at seemingly nothing, further adding to my unease. I can't help but ponder the repercussions of inviting those kids inside the store. Did I unwittingly put myself in danger? I shared my unsettling experience with my boss and requested her to review the surveillance footage from that night. However, upon reviewing the tapes, she saw nothing out of the ordinary. In fact, she believes I've lost my sanity, and in some sentiment, is shared by everyone else around me, apparently. I feel isolated and misunderstood. Except for those who have encountered similar inexplicable phenomena, I know that I'm not alone in this. As the time draws near for me to return to work tonight, my apprehension only grows stronger. It's as if I have an innate sense that I'm marching towards my own demise. The fear gnaws at my chest, devouring my peace of mind. I can't shake off the feeling that something sinister awaits me, lurking in the shadows of that convenience store. Story number 2. I saw my girlfriend's double. About a month ago, an incident occurred that left me bewildered and questioning the very fabric of reality. It was a seemingly ordinary day, and I found myself engaged in conversation with my father near the doorway of our humble little abode. Little did I know that this encounter would unravel a perplexing chain of events. As I stood there engrossed in our discussion, my gaze wandered towards the adjacent living room. To my astonishment, I caught sight of a woman who bore an uncanny resemblance to my beloved girlfriend, making her way toward the bathroom. In that fleeting moment, my heart skipped a beat, and without a second's thought, I impulsively uttered something rather foolish. I called out to her, expressing my surprise at her sudden presence in our home. Curiosity piqued, I hastily made my way towards the bathroom, eager to join her and inquire about her unexpected visit. However, upon arrival, I was greeted by a perplexing sight, a vacant and desolate space, devoid of any human presence. Confusion enveloped me as I scanned the room, desperately searching for any sign of the woman who had seemingly vanished into thin air. Puzzled and slightly unnerved, I retraced my steps and ventured toward the bedroom, hoping to find solace in familiar surroundings. Yet, as I stepped into the room, my eyes were met with an unexpected scene. There, seated comfortably on the edge of the bed, was my girlfriend, engrossed in the captivating glow of a television screen. The inexplicable had become a reality. She had somehow managed to traverse the distance between the living room and our bedroom in a matter of seconds. Needless to say, my mind was filled with a whirlwind of thoughts and questions. How could someone be in two places at once? Was there some sort of supernatural phenomenon at play? Or perhaps a glitch in the matrix? This peculiar occurrence was not the first of its kind to transpire within the confines of my life. In retrospect, I recalled several instances in which reality seemed to twist and contort, blurring the boundaries between the tangible and the ethereal. It was as if the very fabric of my existence had been woven with threads of uncertainty, leaving with me perpetually teetering on the precipice of bewilderment. As the days passed, I found myself embarking on a quest for answers, a journey into the realm of the inexplicable. I delved into the depths of scientific literature, poring over countless theories and hypotheses, hoping to unravel the enigma that had befallen me. From quantum physics to metaphysics, no stone was left unturned in my pursuit of understanding. Yet with each passing day, my inquiries seemed to yield more questions than answers. The nature of reality, it appeared, was an elusive mistress, forever shrouded in mystery. Was I merely a witness to the interdimensional crossover, or was there a deeper, more profound significance to these perplexing occurrences? The seeds of doubt were sown, and my mind became a battleground for opposing theories, vying for dominance. In my quest for comprehension, I sought solace in the experience of others. Countless hours were spent scouring the depths of the internet, fervently combing through the forums and discussion boards in search of individuals who had encountered similar things. I yearned to find solace in the company of those who could validate my experiences, to know that I was not alone in my journey through the Twilight Zone. Through these virtual encounters, I discovered a vast community of individuals who had traversed the labyrinth corridors of the inexplicable. They shared stories of encounters with doppelgangers, eerie apparitions, and unexplained phenomena that defied all rational explanation. Their words resonated deeply within me, providing a glimmer of hope that someday I might uncover the truth that lay hidden in the shadows. And so, armed with the collective wisdom of these kindred spirits, I embarked on a personal odyssey, an exploration of the metaphysical realms that lay beyond the confines of everyday perception. I delved into ancient scriptures and mystical texts, seeking clues that would shed light on this enigmatic occurrence that had plagued my existence. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months as I dove deeper into the rabbit hole of esoteric knowledge. Each revelation unveiled a new layer of complexity, pushing the boundaries of my understanding to their limits. The more I learned, the more I realized how truly little I knew. Yet, amidst the labyrinth of uncertainty, a newfound sense of wonder and awe began to blossom within me. I discovered that the inexplicable and extraordinary were not mere anomalies to be feared, but gateways to a realm of boundless possibilities. The enigmatic encounters that had once left me bewildered now became sources of fascination, offering glimpses into the infinite tapestry of existence. As I pen these words, I find myself in a state of profound gratitude for the mysteries that have challenged my perceptions, the questions that have ignited my curiosity, and the relentless pursuit of knowledge that has propelled me forward. Though I have yet to uncover the ultimate truth behind the peculiar occurrences that unfolded that fateful day, I remain steadfast in my belief that the answers I seek are waiting patiently to be unveiled. And so, dear reader, I implore you to embrace this enigmatic tapestry of life, to question the boundaries of reality, and to embark on our own voyage of discovery. For it's in this realm of the inexplicable that we truly find ourselves, and it is through the pursuit of understanding that we become one of the ever-unfolding mysteries of the universe. Story number 3. First-time experience. I find myself at the ripe age of 25, embarking on an unexpected journey that led me to take up residence in my grandmother's old abandoned house. The circumstances that brought me here are shrouded in personal reasons that I prefer to keep kind of concealed. Allow me to paint a vivid picture of the dwelling that now surrounds me. This house, a standard 2-story abode, stands with an eerie allure, boasting an attic teeming with spiders and a basement door that stubbornly refuses to lock, leaving direct access to the outside deck. Neglect has taken its toll on this once vibrant exterior, leaving behind a haunting visage of peeling blue paint. The windows, small and square-shaped, are reminiscent of days gone by, with one gracing each bedroom. In my quest for solace within these walls, I've chosen to occupy the very room my sister once slumbered in. The decision was born out of an unsettling event that transpired many years ago. You see, my dear grandfather, a victim of congestive heart failure, met his untimely demise within the confines of his own room. The thought of sleeping in a space where a life had ended sent shivers down my spine, so I sought refuge in my sister's former sanctuary. One fateful night as I lay in bed, cocooned by the covers, I was abruptly startled by a distinct sound that permeated the air. It was unmistakable, an unmistakable echo of what appeared to be a grown man of considerable size traversing the creaky wooden steps that led into the living room. Panic flooded my senses, for I assumed an intruder had breached the feeble defenses of the unlocked basement door. Beads of perspiration formed on my brow as a surge of adrenaline coursed through my veins, propelling me to grasp my late grandfather's weathered hunting knife, my newfound weapon of defense. Without hesitation, I mustered every ounce of courage within me, and as the sound reached its crescendo, I mustered the strength to kick open the bedroom door, poised to confront the intruder with an unwavering resolve. To my bewilderment and disbelief, the empty space that met my eyes provided no evidence of an unwelcome visitor. It was as though the ethereal footsteps had dissipated into thin air. I struggled to comprehend the surreal experience that had unfolded before me. It seemed inconceivable, defying all logic and reason. A mixture of relief and disorientation washed over me, for the realization that there was no living being to confront offered a respite from the immediate threat that I had anticipated. However, the mystery remained, taunting my curious mind. Seeking answers, I turned to my mother, who posited a theory that sent shivers down my spine. She proposed that the footsteps belonged to not an earthly intruder, but to the spectral presence of my departed grandfather, lingering within the walls of this desolate dwelling. The notion was simultaneously comforting and unsettling, blurring the boundaries between the tangible and the otherworldly. In the days that followed, the enigmatic occurrences persisted. Once again, the heavy footsteps reverberated through the hollow halls, echoing with an eerie persistence. Determined to seek solace and a semblance of normalcy within the spectral realm, I sought the guidance of spirituality. Incense, fragrant with its ethereal smoke, wafted through the house, mingling with fervent prayers uttered in the hopes of quelling the supernatural unrest that pervaded every corner. As if appeased by these rituals, the phantom footfalls ceased their haunting serenade. Silence once again embraced the old house, imbuing it with an air of tranquility. Whether the ethereal presence truly belonged to my grandfather, or whether it was a figment of my imagination, remains an enigma that may never be fully resolved. Yet one thing remains clear. The weight of those heavy footsteps and the echoes of the intangible presence have etched themselves into the fabric of my consciousness, forever reminding me of the thin veil that separates the living from the departed. Story number 4, Why I Don't Mess with Ouija Boards. Seems like a lot of people have scary experiences with Ouija boards, but let me tell you about mine. It was Halloween night in 2019, and I found myself at a party with my friend Alex and a couple of his friends. We were all having a great time jamming out to spooky Halloween music and enjoying the festive atmosphere. As the night progressed, some of us started feeling a bit tired, but we didn't want the fun to end just yet. We decided to play a board and card game to keep the excitement going. That's when one of Alex's friends, whom I'll refer to as Lexi for privacy reasons, suggested that we try a Ouija board. You know, like in the movies, she said with a mischievous grin. Now, growing up in a fairly standard Christian home, I had always been warned about the dangers of Ouija boards, especially around Halloween. The stories I had heard were filled with cautionary tales of evil and spiritual unrest. However, I never really gave them much credence. None of us had a Ouija board, nor did we know where to find one in such short notice. Lexi, ever resourceful, proposed that we make our own. So, like a group of naive teenagers, we searched for a design online and used a Sharpie to draw one out in a piece of cardboard. For the pointer, we repurposed an old guitar pick. Excited and a little bit apprehensive, we gathered around the makeshift Ouija board, ready to experience something otherworldly. At first, the questions we asked were silly and light-hearted. We inquired about trivial matters like, who among us is the dumbest? Or, who will be the wealthiest after high school? To our disappointment, the board responded with a resounding no to most of the inquiries, as if it were irritated by our juvenile approach. Undeterred, Lexi suggested that we take things up a notch. She asked the board if there was anyone who would like to communicate with us. Suddenly, the atmosphere in the room underwent a drastic change. It felt as though the temperature dropped and an indescribable uneasiness settled upon us. The pointer on the board began moving slowly but deliberately towards yes. A wave of discomfort swept through the room, affecting everyone except for my one friend named Mike, who seemed convinced that someone among us was playing a prank to frighten the rest. To test his theory, Mike decided to challenge the board. He asked it to reveal the name of a deceased relative that none of us in the room knew about. To our astonishment, the pointer spelled out E-L-E-A-N-O-R, Eleanor. Panic ensued as we realized that Eleanor was not the name of Mike's grandmother, Irene, whom we all knew. Instead, it turned out to be the name of his great-great-aunt who had passed away long before his own mother's death. In that moment, fear gripped each and every one of us, leaving us utterly terrified. Desperate to understand what was happening, we nervously asked the board what it wanted. In response, it spelled out a series of vulgar obscenities and incomprehensible words that none of us could decipher. Overwhelmed by the darkness and the malevolence emanating from the board, we hastily said our goodbyes and abruptly ended the session. As we turned on the lights, the room was filled with a tense silence, and our faces reflected the deep unease we all felt. Without hesitation, we decided to dispose of the homemade Ouija board. Wanting nothing more to do with it, we threw it away, hoping to sever any connection we had established with the unknown forces that had momentarily entered our lives. Since that fateful night, none of us has dared touch a Ouija board again, haunted by the chilling and inexplicable experience we had collectively endured. And so this cautionary tale serves as a stark reminder that some things are better left undisturbed, and that the supernatural realm can be far more potent and terrifying than we could ever fathom. Story number 5. Demonic Haunted Apartment. 12 years ago, my family and I embarked on a fateful journey as we moved into an apartment that would soon reveal itself to be haunted. Perhaps even something demonic. To fully grasp the gravity of the situation, I must delve further back into the past and shed light on the role my stepson played in this chilling tale. These eerie anecdotes concerning my stepson were relayed to me by my husband, and as I recount them, I can't help but believe that my stepson possessed a certain sensitivity to the supernatural, including ghosts and paranormal phenomena. It all began when my stepson was just a baby, back when we resided in another haunted apartment. One night he awoke from his slumber crying as if in pain, and to our shock, we discovered 3 distinct scratches on his delicate back. While skeptics may offer plausible explanations, my husband adamantly insisted that those scratches were not present before putting him to sleep. Another curious phenomenon was the presence of orbs in nearly every photograph featuring my stepson. Although some might dismiss it as mere coincidence or explainable by natural means, we had pictures where only his foot was visible, and yet there was a perfectly positioned orb near it. Remarkably, regardless of the photo's location, approximately 90% of the pictures we had of him showcased this perplexing anomaly. Now let us jump forward once again, back to the time when we first made our ill-fated decision to move into that haunted apartment 12 years ago. Despite our poor credit history, the landlord granted us a chance, and we were elated at the prospect of having our own space. Having previously lived with my mother, I distinctly remember the landlord mentioning the extensive renovations that had been necessary due to the previous tenants' wanton destruction of the place. Little did we know that this information foreshadowed the horrors that awaited us. In the first month of our occupancy, I began noticing fleeting shadows in the corners of my eyes, emanating from the 2 bedrooms. Initially, I attributed these sightings to exhaustion, as I was caring for my 1-year-old son at the time. Exhaustion seems pretty plausible. However, as time passed, the paranormal encounters escalated. On one particularly unsettling occasion, I decided to take a shower while my 1-year-old son napped. To ensure I could hear him if he woke up, I left the door leading to my bathroom ajar, open just a little bit. As I stood underneath the cascading water, an inexplicable sense of being watched washed over me. When I mustered the courage to open my eyes, I caught a glimpse of a fleeting black shadow darting past the partially open door. Simultaneously, my son erupted into hysterical cries. Filled with the mixture of fear and protective instinct, I hastily exited the shower, scouring the house for signs of an intruder, only to find that the front door remained securely locked. A month passed, and strange occurrences began plaguing my stepchildren's room, who at the time were 7 and 8 years old. The wooden closet door started knocking on their own accord, occupied by an unsettling stench akin to rotten eggs permeating the room. Despite my exhaustive efforts to locate the source of the odor, my search proved fruitless. During subsequent visits, my mother-in-law playfully teased that the kids must have hidden an egg salad sandwich somewhere. My husband, too, acknowledged this knocking sound, but attributed them to the air conditioning systems kicking in. One weekend, my husband had to travel for work, leaving me alone with all the children. After successfully putting them to sleep, I decided to stay up and watch an episode of Ghost Adventures. As I lay on the couch engrossed in the paranormal investigation, my gaze happened to wander upwards, only to be met with the sight of my stepson standing by the couch with his eyes tightly shut. It dawned on me that he was sleepwalking, a phenomenon that occasionally occurred. He started mumbling about an old, terrifying man residing in his closet. Naively believing it to be a mere nightmare, I gently guided him back to his bed. However, as I turned to leave the room, my stepson suddenly sat up. His eyes still closed, and uttered, "The old man in the closet is looking at me." A sense of dread enveloped me as I glanced towards the closet, now inexplicably open. Then, to my horror, my stepson whispered, "He's going to knock." In that very instant, 3 distinct knocks reverberated through the room, accompanied by the resurgence of the putrid odor of rotten eggs. In a state of panic, I swiftly flicked on the lights and guided my stepson to the safety of my bedroom. Internally, I was consumed by fear, as my stepdaughter, asleep on the top bunk in the same room, was now left vulnerable. Eventually, I managed to gather all the children into my bed, remaining awake until fatigue overcame me and sleep inevitably claimed me. Although not particularly devout, I turned to my mother for advice on how to confront the unexplained terrors plaguing our apartment. She advised me to pray over our rooms and anoint my fingers with oil, drawing crosses on each doorframe. Eager to restore a semblance of peace, I followed her instructions to the letter. That very night, my dreams turned into a horrifying nightmare, wherein my mother appeared possessed. In this macabre vision, I witnessed her meeting a grisly demise, the horror of which I was forced to endure. Jolted awake, tears streaming down my face, I longed for an escape, a means to leave this place behind. Alas, moving was not an immediate option, and the apartment seemed to settle into a state of calm after this ghastly ordeal. However, a new manifestation emerged during this respite. On one particular night, I abruptly woke to the sensation of my bed shaking, as if someone had pressed their knees against the mattress and commenced an unsettling tremor. Yet every time I attempted to rouse my husband to share this inexplicable occurrence, the shaking would immediately cease. This peculiar phenomenon recurred on a weekly basis, adding to the mounting sense of unease that permeated our lives. Allow me to provide a bit of context. My 1-year-old son slept in a toddler bed, positioned in front of our own. One night, both my son and I were awake in the living room, and my husband, exhausted from a day's work, had retired to bed early. To my astonishment, he emerged from the bedroom with a troubled expression and admonished me for allowing our son to enter the room, as he claimed the bed had been shaking. I vehemently denied that our son had ever set foot in our bedroom. As I finished my sentence, the glass cover of the entryway light, situated directly behind me, suddenly crashed to the floor. My husband stood there, his wary mind struggling to process the series of unsettling events unfolding before him. Finally, he began to see and feel the things that had tormented me for so long. Soon after, fate intervened when a nearby house became available for rent, providing us with an opportunity to escape the clutches of that dreaded apartment. With an overwhelming sense of relief, we packed our belongings and left, having spent less than a year in that wretched place. As we settled into our new home, a wave of gratitude washed over me, for I feared that whatever malevolent entity resided within the haunted apartment might have attached itself to us, forever haunting our lives. Tragically, in 2019, my stepson passed away, potentially a victim of COVID-19. Prior to his untimely departure, I had shared the eerie events that had unfolded in the apartment with him during his teenage years. Astonishingly, he claimed to have no recollection of the incidents, but deep down, I wholeheartedly believed that he indeed bore witness to the entity that plagued our lives in that accursed dwelling. To this day, the memories of those harrowing experiences remain etched in my mind, a chilling testament to the experience of forces beyond our comprehension. Story number 6. The Mom Mimic. In 2007, a memorable incident took place that still haunts me to this day. It all began when my sister and her husband decided to move into a rental home shortly after the birth of their adorable little baby boy. The house was situated in a relatively new neighborhood, boasting modern features and an overall inviting atmosphere. As a loving and supportive sister, I was more than happy to offer my services as a babysitter, allowing my sister and brother-in-law to have a well-deserved evening out. On that particular evening, I arrived at their new abode, excited to spend some quality time with my adorable nephew. Before departing for their night out, my sister briefed me on some essential details. She mentioned that there was a load of baby clothes in the dryer that needed to be taken out and folded. Eager to help, I assured her that I had enough time to complete the task. After bidding them farewell, I heard the comforting sound of the dryer's completion alert after about 30 minutes. I carefully placed my nephew in his crib, and made my way to the laundry room to tend to the clothes. With utmost care, I removed the freshly laundered baby clothes from the dryer and meticulously folded them. Placing the neatly folded garments in a basket, I positioned it on a changing table. Feeling satisfied with my accomplishment, I retrieved my slumbering nephew from his crib, gently relocating him to his bassinet in the peaceful ambiance of the living room. There, I entertained myself with some quiet television time. However, my tranquility was abruptly shattered by a loud bang emanating from the nursery, the very room we had occupied earlier. Curiosity and concern washed over me, but upon peering into the bassinet, I found my nephew blissfully asleep. Undisturbed by the commotion, just totally asleep. Determined to investigate, I cautiously made my way to the nursery, nervously pushing the door open. To my astonishment, the laundry basket that I had placed on the changing table was now on the other side of the room, toppled over and upside down. The once neatly folded baby clothes appeared as if they had been carelessly tossed about. Puzzled and somewhat unnerved by the inexplicable incident, I swiftly collected the basket and its disheveled contents, returning them to the living room for refolding. Despite my confusion, I chose not to mention the incident, as I didn't want to spoil my sister and brother-in-law's evening. Months passed, and my sister once again sought my babysitting services for an evening. This time, my mother decided to join my sister and brother-in-law, as they planned a trip to a nearby casino. Before their departure, my sister informed me that my nephew would require a feeding upon awakening from his nap. True to her word, my nephew stirred awake just 30 minutes after they left, prompting me to bring him to the kitchen and settle him into a chair while I prepared his bottle. Now let me interject with a tidbit about myself. My name is Angelina, but I go by Angie for short. My mother in particular only used my full name when I was in trouble or when she was angry with me. Generally, it was quite rare to hear my full name being employed. Bearing this in mind, as I was engrossed in bottle preparation, I suddenly heard my mother's voice resounding angrily from what seemed to be the nursery. "Angelina, come here now!" she called out, her tone filled with ire. In response, I yelled back, "Just a second, I'm in the middle of making the baby's bottle." However, my mother's voice echoed once more, this time from the master bedroom, intensifying her urgency as she repeated, "Angela, come here now!" Feeling a mix of frustration and confusion, I retorted, "What's going on? Give me a second." Scooping up my nephew, I made my way toward the master bedroom, expecting to find my mother in distress and seeking assistance. To my astonishment, the room was empty, devoid of any trace of my mother's presence. I searched every nook and cranny, examining both the nursery and other areas of the house, including the guest bedroom. The bedroom and even the garage, too. My search led me to the driveway, where I checked for any additional cars beside my own. To my surprise, there was only my vehicle parked in the driveway. Perplexed, I re-entered the house and promptly dialed my mother's number. "Hey!" I exclaimed, my voice filled with a mixture of confusion and concern. "Did you guys come back and forget something?" On the other end of the line, my mother's voice responded with an equal bewilderment. "No, why? We've been out on the road for over 30 minutes now." My stomach churned with unease as I processed her words. Trying to maintain composure, I dismissed the incident, casually attributing it to the television's influence, even though it had been switched off the entire time. After ending the call, my heart nearly leapt out of my chest as the doorbell rang, shattering the eerie silence that enveloped the house. With a mix of trepidation and anticipation, I hurried toward the front door, almost forgetting to check through the peephole before swinging it open. To my surprise, there was no one to be seen on the other side. I peered out cautiously, examining the driveway for any sign of additional vehicles. Alas, only my car was visible. A profound sense of dread washed over me yet again, intensifying with each passing moment. It was as if an invisible force was toying with my senses, playing a macabre game of hide-and-seek, and left me feeling unnerved and vulnerable. There was no one outside, and from the vantage point offered by the house's location, I could clearly observe both directions of the street. Strangely enough, I never disclosed any of these spine-chilling incidents to my sister until she decided to move out of that unsettling rental home. As I assisted her with the moving process, I couldn't help but notice that my nephew's crib had been relocated to the safety of the master bedroom. Intrigued, I inquired about this change, partly driven by curiosity about my nephew's sleeping patterns. What she revealed caught me completely off guard, mind you. My sister confessed that around Halloween she had purchased a black light and had the audacity to plug it in within the confines of the nursery. To her shock and horror, the room was instantly illuminated with a chilling sight. A large, concentrated stain dominated the center of the room, surrounded by eerie handprints creeping up the walls. Overwhelmed by an indescribable discomfort, she promptly decided to move my nephew's crib into her own bedroom that very night. Stunned by her revelation, I couldn't help but share my own experiences during the first night I babysat her nephew. It was then that my sister confided in me, disclosing a series of strange occurrences that had plagued their time in that house. Lights flickering sporadically, the doorbell ringing incessantly with no one ever present, and even the unsettling sensation of hearing disembodied voices were just a few of the eerie encounters she endured. The landlord, in a desperate attempt to retain tenants in the increasingly notorious rental property, had offered my sister a reduced rent if they signed a year-long lease. Sensing something inherently wrong with the place, my sister firmly declined the offer, ultimately choosing to relocate. As we reminisced about these unsettling events, a lingering sense of curiosity nagged at me. I often wondered what might have taken place within the walls of that house, if only I had delved deeper into the mysteries that it held. It pained me to think that an unseen presence had mimicked my mother's voice, using it as a tool to disturb and unsettle our peace of mind. The true nature of that malevolent force remained shrouded in the shadows, forever leaving us with unanswered questions and an enduring sense of unease. Story number 7. Scary Ghost Encounter. So I downloaded the Spirit Talker application because I've been engrossed in countless paranormal videos on YouTube lately, and I wanted to verify its legitimacy for myself. It was an ordinary day when I had an appointment at the hospital, so I figured it would be the perfect opportunity to test out the app. Without further ado, I launched the application and it allowed to run in the background. At first, it started spewing out a stream of seemingly random words, which immediately made me skeptical. My initial reaction was to dismiss it as mere fabrication. Nevertheless, my curiosity got the best of me, and I decided to play around with the app a little bit more. I summoned the courage to ask the app for a name and a story, fully expecting it to provide me with another generic response. To my surprise, it offered 2 distinct names and claimed that one of them had been a witness to a devastating car crash. The eeriness of the situation sent shivers down my spine, but I still couldn't shake the notion that it might all be a clever ruse. However, the app continued to pique my interest as it started mentioning peculiar words like patience, knife, and injection. Coincidentally, I happened to be at the hospital for an injection myself, which intensified the uncanny atmosphere surrounding me. As I left the hospital, I felt compelled to address whatever entity or entities were allegedly following me through the app. I sternly notified them that they had no permission to accompany me back home, and expressed my gratitude for their interaction, but requested them to leave me be. Just as I was about to exit the hospital's doors, a chilling voice emanated from the app, pleading, "Please leave here." A sense of unease washed over me, but I decided to leave the application running as I embarked on my journey homeward. The entire trip back was remarkably silent. The once chatty Spirit Talker app fell eerily dormant, leaving me in an unsettling state of anticipation. Finally, upon reaching the sanctuary of our home, the app suddenly came back to life, uttering the bone-chilling words, "I'm home," and "ashes." My heart skipped a beat as I realized that my boyfriend had been keeping his late brother's ashes, a tragic reminder of his siblings' untimely demise by suicide. It was an emotional, charged moment, and the app's subsequent responses began to align directly with my thoughts, actions, and inquiries. As I cautiously passed by the table adorned with cherished photographs and the urn containing the ashes, The Spirit Talker app seemed to intrude into my reality, blurting out phrases like "don't move," "recognize," and "relative." Overwhelmed with a mixture of trepidation and curiosity, I gingerly took a seat and mustered up the courage to ask the app a poignant question. "Where are you?" To my utter astonishment, the app responded with a single word: "The hall." A wave of profound sadness washed over me, and my heart sank to the depths of my being. Suddenly the app spoke an unexpected name: Eric. I was taken back, as I had never mentioned Eric before, and my boyfriend had never discussed him either. It was a name that held great significance within my boyfriend's family, forever intertwined with the tragedy that had shaped their lives. In that vulnerable moment, the app's eerie messages continued, revealing fragments of a story that only Eric could know, declaring, "I'm dead," and evoking feelings of sorrow and anguish. Overwhelmed with a profound mixture of emotions, I couldn't contain the floodgate of tears streaming down my face. The weight of the experience pressed heavily on my heart as I found myself inexplicably connected to a realm beyond our understanding. I knew in my soul that it was my boyfriend's departed brother communicating through the app. The sheer authenticity of the app's knowledge, with its mentions of real names and personal details, left me astounded and convinced of its otherworldly nature. In the midst of my emotional turmoil, a flicker of apprehension settled within me. While I had substantial evidence to support the legitimacy of this haunting encounter, I hesitated to divulge the full extent of this experience. My desire to protect the privacy of those involved, shielding them from potential distress or unwanted attention, weighed heavily on my mind. The evidence and corroborating accounts would serve as a personal testament to the genuineness of the Spirit Talker app, but I knew that sharing it could potentially upset someone deeply. And so, this remarkable journey, filled with inexplicable connections, profound sadness, and a brush with the supernatural, remains a closely guarded secret within the confines of my heart. The Spirit Talker app, with its chilling accuracy and inexplicable insights, has forever changed my perception of the unseen world, leaving me with a profound appreciation for the mysteries that lie beyond our tangible existence. It serves as a constant reminder that there are realms yet explored, waiting to be unveiled, and that sometimes the most extraordinary experiences are meant to be kept hidden, cherished only by those who are fortunate enough to have been touched by their enigmatic embrace. Story number 8. I think I'm cursed or haunted. I'm reaching a point of sheer exhaustion. This relentless ordeal has robbed me of peaceful sleep and instilled a paralyzing fear within me wherever I approach bedtime. It's a tale that originated from sleep paralysis, an event that I won't delve into extensively, as this isn't designated subreddit for such discussions. However, it serves as a genesis of my current predicament. Following that haunting episode, I found myself awakening on numerous occasions, overwhelmed by an inexplicable sense of dread, consistently around the ungodly hour of 3 a.m. or 3:33 a.m. Within the confines of my room, I perceived the eerie sounds of footsteps, the flickering of light switches, and an undeniable presence looming over me. Each time, a profound sensation of dread coursed through my veins, leaving me petrified and incapable of finding solace. But lately, matters have taken a turn for the worse. Although there was a brief respite from lasting about a month, 2 nights ago my slumber was interrupted by an unexpected disturbance. Awakening at what seemed like 6 a.m., despite the illusion of a full night's rest, a sudden noise pierced the silence. It resembled the sound of something toppling over, a notion I attributed to the wind knocking down my water bottle. Foolishly assuming my window had been left ajar, perhaps. However, upon inspection, I discovered that my window was securely shut. Perplexed but not overly concerned, I resolved to address the matter in the morning. It was only then, as I cast my gaze upon the floor beside my bed, that I beheld a roll of tape, incongruously lying there. I distinctly remembered its previous location on my desk, leaving me bewildered as to how it had managed to roll such a considerable distance. And then, last night, following what felt like yet another complete night's rest, I was roused from my slumber at the stroke of midnight, having retired to bed previously at 11:30 p.m., by an inexplicable occurrence. An indistinct noise, akin to the belch of my brother occasionally unleashes, reverberating through the darkness. Strangely, no one else seemed to stir in response to this audible disturbance. Furthermore, a faint melody permeated the air, reminiscent of my mother's alarm clock. Nevertheless, it abruptly ceased mere seconds after its inception. A puzzling phenomenon given the lateness of the hour. Turning to face the wall, I suddenly found myself seized by an uncontrollable trembling, despite the absence of cold or any discernible cause for my physical reaction. On the surface, these events may appear relatively innocuous, but their cumulative effect has taken a toll on my mental well-being. I find myself perpetually drained upon awakening, as if my very essence has been sapped. The exhaustion engulfs me, leaving me desolate and bereft. Fear now haunts my every thought, casting its dark shadow over the prospect of slumber. The weight of this mounting torment, both physically and psychologically, has become too much to bear. I'm at a loss for what steps to take next, trapped in a state of perpetual apprehension. The simple act of going to bed, once a cherished respite, has transformed into a daunting and fear-laden task. My mind is plagued with uncertainty, and my weary spirit yearns for a reprieve from this malevolent cycle. Story number 9. It was really scary and annoying. So let me take you back maybe 10 or 15 years, although the exact timeline is a bit hazy. In my memory, for reasons I'll explain later. At that time, I was a teenager living with my mom because my dad had kicked me out for my affinity for weed, but hey, no regrets there. My younger sister was also living with our mom because for her, our mom was the preferred parent. Meanwhile, my older brother was off serving in the military, so we were widely separated as a family, each going on our own separate ways. Our living situation was in a smaller house with 2 floors and a total of 3 bedrooms. The biggest room was on the 2nd floor, which we all referred to as the master bedroom. Then there was the front bedroom. And toward the back of the house, there was a room we called the guest room, which was intended to be mine. During that period, I was in my junior year of high school, and my mom had laid out a specific set of rules for me to follow. No drugs or alcohol, no closing the door when I had company over, and no making loud noises. I wouldn't say I was a bad kid, although I did enjoy smoking weed quite a bit. I sometimes resorted to lying to avoid trouble, but overall, I wouldn't classify myself as a troublemaker. Unfortunately, my parents didn't hold the most favorable opinion of me. During the first few nights in that house, everything seemed relatively calm. Occasionally, my sister's sleepwalking adventures would echo down the hall, but funny enough, her sleepwalking isn't relevant to the story I'm about to share. About 2 weeks or so into our stay, I hadn't experienced anything out of the ordinary, but then came that fateful night that would haunt me for years to come. I was sound asleep, as if nothing in the world could wake me up. Suddenly, I was abruptly jolted awake by an intense force tugging on my ankles, nearly pulling me halfway off the bed. Now let me emphasize that I've always been a big guy, heavy-set and strong, so it would have taken considerable strength to move me like that. The experience was beyond unsettling, and I couldn't help but burst into tears because I simply couldn't explain or comprehend what was happening. From that moment on, such occurrences became a consistent part of my life in that house. I confided in my mom, hoping to find some understanding and support. But since she didn't really want me there in the first place, she simply brushed off my concerns. This lack of validation only intensified the fear, plunging me into a deep spiral of depression and anxiety. Nights became a dreaded ordeal as I struggled to sleep, knowing that I would likely experience another terrifying incident. I delved into researching the history of the house, desperately seeking any clues or explanations for these supernatural events. Unfortunately, I couldn't find any prior incidents or documented phenomena associated with the house, despite my efforts to dig deep. The haunting continued relentlessly, persisting until the end of my junior year. It all began roughly a month into the second semester, adding to the mounting stress and pressure I was already experiencing as a student. During one particularly distressing night, as the mysterious force once again made its presence known, I couldn't bear it any longer. Overwhelmed with despair, I screamed out in desperation, "For the love of God, please stop! I can't endure this anymore." The reaction that followed was nothing short of horrifying. The entity, or whatever it was, violently rattled my door, almost tearing it off its hinges, leaving me paralyzed with fear. I didn't sleep for the remainder of that night, paralyzed by the terror that had consumed me. After that traumatic incident, I made the decision to sleep upstairs from then on. My mom would occasionally instruct me to go back to my designated room whenever she found me sleeping elsewhere in the house, but after that night, I refused to budge. In fact, I withdrew into myself, speaking barely a word and retreating into a shell of fear and anxiety. It's an experience that will forever be etched in my mind, evoking tears whenever I recall it, and I rely on my partner's calming presence to soothe my troubled emotions. Most nights, sleep eludes me, forcing me to resort to heavy doses of melatonin just to find some semblance of rest. So there you have it, the harrowing tale of my teenage years, filled with an inexplicable and terrifying occurrence that continue to haunt me to this day. Story number 10. Mimic Ghost. Back in the year 2020, during the lockdown period, a peculiar incident occurred, which continues to bewilder me to this day. At that time, I was a mere 13 years old, and both of my parents happened to be essential workers, tirelessly carrying out their duties amidst the stringent measures in place. Consequently, they were absent from home for a significant portion of the lockdown. This left me in the company of my 16-year-old sister and our faithful canine companion. On that particular day, my sister decided to take our beloved dog for a refreshing walk outdoors, while I remained upstairs engrossed in the captivating world of my phone screen. As she departed through the black gate, which emitted an audible creak and clank when opened or closed, I continued to indulge in my virtual pursuits. However, approximately 10 minutes later, my attention was seized by the distinct sound of the back gate swinging open, accompanied by the rhythmic jingle produced when my dog enthusiastically shook his head, causing his ears to slap against his head. Curiosity piqued, I hastened downstairs, eager to reunite with my sister and our dog. To my astonishment, I discovered an empty courtyard, devoid of their presence. Perplexed, I dismissed the incident as a figment of my imagination, convincing myself that my senses had momentarily deceived me. Subsequently, I sought solace in the familiar surroundings of our garage. As fate would have it, the saga continued to unravel itself the following day. Once again, my sister and I found ourselves occupying our separate domain upstairs, while I luxuriously sprawled across my parents' bed, captivated by the digital wonders within my grasp. My sister sought refuge in the confines of her own room, accompanied by her ever-loyal canine companion. The clock hand gracefully embraced the hour of 2:30 p.m., the very moment my mother typically returned from her arduous day of work. Suddenly I heard the front door swing open with an air of familiarity, accompanied by the melodious resonance of my mother's voice as she cheerfully greeted us, a tradition she maintains even to this day. Intrigued and yearning for a glimpse of her familiar countenance, I eagerly ascended the staircase, anticipation building within me. Yet, once again, I was confronted with an empty landing, devoid of any signs of life. Perplexed and slightly unnerved, I immediately sought solace in the presence of my sister, eager to unravel the perplexing mystery that shrouded her humble abode. To my surprise, my sister affirmed that she too had distinctly heard our mother's voice resonating through the walls, an eerie testament to the bizarre nature of our shared experience. The unsettling events of the past 2 days had left both my sister and me on edge, struggling to comprehend the inexplicable phenomenon that had invaded our lives. It was crucial to note that our residence, an architectural relic of the past, had been erected in the year of 1907, harboring within its time-worn walls the vestiges of forgotten tales. It seems almost fitting that such a historic abode would become the stage upon which the enigmatic presence would unveil itself. Since that disconcerting encounter, I am relieved to recount the mimicry, which haunted our once tranquil sanctuary, has not reared its perplexing head again. As I sit here reflecting upon those bewildering days, the question lingers like an indomitable specter. What or who was responsible for the auditory illusions that plagued our humble dwelling? To this day, me and my sister remain confounded, with no plausible explanation to appease our curious minds. The inexplicable mimicry continues to defy rational comprehension, an enduring mystery woven into the fabric of our lives, forever intertwined with the chapters of our shared history. Story number 11. Just a tad creeped out. Over a decade has passed since that eerie incident unfolded. Allow me to take you back to that spine-chilling night where I found myself alone with my faithful canine companion. You see, my husband had been assigned to the night shift, leaving just my dog and me in the confines of our home. With the darkness enveloping the world outside, my dog peacefully slumbered beside me, oblivious to the events that were about to unfold. As the night grew deeper, I found solace in the company of a gripping novel. The words on the pages danced before my eyes, captivating my imagination. However, a sudden urge to bid my beloved husband good night tugged at my heartstrings. Grasping my phone, I prepared to reach out to him, to bridge the distance between our nocturnal lives. With a few taps, I accessed the text application on my phone and diligently selected my husband's contact. But as my fingertips hovered above the keyboard, a peculiar occurrence sent shivers cascading down my spine. Inexplicably, without any prompt from my touch, the screen began to manifest a message before my very eyes. Slowly but surely, letter by letter, the words, "I am BEAUT," materialized on the illuminated surface. The shock rendered me motionless, and in a reflexive response, I involuntarily hurled the phone back into the bed, face down. Its dull thud against the sheets served as an awakening for my slumbering dog, who roused from her peaceful repose. Her eyes fixated on a point beyond the phone, her instincts alert, and an uncharacteristic growl emanating from deep within her being. As the hair on the back of my neck stood erect, an overwhelming sense of unease washed over me. The sensation that coursed through my scalp was familiar, a numbing feeling that had accompanied me during past encounters with the paranormal. The realization set in that I was not alone in the room, that an inexplicable presence lingered, disrupting the tranquility of our home. Yet my husband's absence until the late hours of the night compelled me to gather my courage and confront the enigmatic force. Turning my gaze towards the direction that my dog intently shared, I mustered every ounce of bravery within me. In a firm voice, laced with determination, I addressed the unknown entity, proclaiming, "You are not welcome here. Leave this place at once." To my astonishment, almost as if acknowledging my words, my dog's growls began to wane, eventually transforming into a languid yawn. Gradually, her alertness faded, and she nestled herself back into a state of undisturbed slumber. The room fell silent with an eerie calm, and the supernatural visitor had heeded my warning. Although I had encountered paranormal phenomena in the past, the event that unfolded that night was unlike any other. The notion of an otherworldly entity taking control of my phone, manipulating it to communicate a cryptic message, remained a perplexing anomaly, a one-of-a-kind occurrence in my personal repertoire of supernatural experiences. As I reflect upon the fateful night, even after all these years, the memory remains etched in my mind. It serves as a reminder that our world holds mysteries beyond our comprehension, glimpses into realms that lie just beyond our reach, and although I may never unravel the true nature of that supernatural encounter, it's left an indelible mark on my consciousness, forever shaping my belief in the enigmatic forces that exist within the realm of the unknown. Story number 12. The Shadow Man and the Paranormal Experiences in the Apartment I Stay at Currently. I've always been a skeptic when it comes to the existence of ghosts. I mean, I'm a 23-year-old guy living in LA, standing tall at 6'2", and I never believed in anything supernatural. That was until last year when something happened that changed my perspective completely. It was a chilling experience that I'll never forget. It was just an ordinary day and I was casually walking down the hallway of my apartment building. Suddenly, out of the corner of my eye, I noticed a shadow. Now, shadows are pretty normal, but this one was different. It wasn't on the wall like most shadows would be. Instead, it was right in the middle of the hallway, moving as if it were a person. The strange thing was that there was nobody around. This shadow figure stood at about 6'1" and had an imposing size, as if it belonged to a person weighing around 200 pounds. It made a sharp turn around a corner leading to the neighboring apartments. Naturally, I was intrigued but also somewhat frightened. I didn't want this mysterious entity following me home, so I decided not to chase after it. I quickly retreated into my apartment, feeling a rush of unease. Opening the window for some fresh air, I was hoping to calm my nerves. However, what happened next only intensified my fear. From the apartment adjacent to mine, I could hear my neighbors engaged in a heated argument. The timing was uncanny, and I couldn't shake off the feeling that there was something paranormal causing the disturbance. Curiosity got the better of me, and I cautiously opened my front door to take a peek. To my surprise, there was nothing there. The eerie silence only added to the mystery. That incident took place in March of last year, but it was not the last time that I encountered something unexplainable. Several months later, I found myself assisting an on-site manager in removing a homeless lady who had been digging through the recycling bins, making a mess of everything. Once she left, I decided to record the aftermath on my phone, intending to send the footage to the building manager as evidence of the situation. Little did I know that this video would haunt me in more ways than one. When I played back the recording, everything appeared normal visually. However, the audio was a different story. Instead of the expected sounds of the environment, I heard what sounded like distant screams. Goosebumps covered my arms and a shiver ran down my spine. I was alone in my garage with no cars or bikes passing by, yet the screams echoed throughout the audio. In a panic, I bolted out of the garage, never daring to watch that video again on my phone. Months went by and I had almost convinced myself that these bizarre incidents were just figments of my imagination. But in December, during a gathering with my Russian friends, the supernatural made its presence felt once more. We were huddled around an expensive gaming setup, engrossed in a session of Resident Evil. Nice choice. Now, let me tell you, my friends are some of the bravest people I know, but what happened that night tested even their courage. Feeling a mix of curiosity and trepidation, I decided to show them the haunted video footage I'd captured months ago. As they listened to the audio, one of them remarked that it sounded like someone burning in a fire. Suddenly, all the lights and monitors and my friend's console shut off abruptly, plunging the room into darkness. Panic ensued as we struggled to restore power and fix the technical issue. It was a baffling situation because, as computer technicians, we were well equipped to handle such problems. However, this time we were stumped for a good 5 minutes. What struck me as even more unsettling was that the power outage and technical malfunction were only occurring in my friend's apartment, which happened to be directly across from mine. Fear gripped me as I contemplated the implications of the strange occurrence. Despite my unease, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was lurking in the darkness of my friend's room. Unable to ignore my instincts any longer, I decided to return home, which conveniently was just across the hall. Throughout the entire night, I was plagued by worry and an overwhelming sense of dread. I couldn't help but keep an eye on my friend's apartment, convinced that I saw movement within the darkness. It was a sleepless night filled with unease and a constant feeling of being watched. To this day, I still possess the haunted footage, saved on my old Instagram stories. However, I dare not open it again. I have learned that strange things start happening whenever I do. It serves as a chilling reminder of the inexplicable events that have unfolded in my life. events that have shattered my skepticism and forced me to confront the possibility that there are forces beyond our understanding. Ghosts may have once been an absurd notion to me, but now they are a haunting reality that I can't easily dismiss. Story number 13. Things mysteriously happening around my house. In my seemingly ordinary life, I often find myself caught in a web of blame for problems I had no knowledge of. Fortunately, such instances were rare, so I didn't feel overly concerned. I would simply attribute them to mere misunderstandings, and then I'd move on. As an 18-year-old girl, I resided with my mother and brother, and our existence was rather uneventful. We coexisted peacefully, although my brother occasionally stirred up trouble, but I, for the most part, remained unaffected. Lately, however, a series of peculiar incidents have been unfolding, leaving me with an unsettling feeling that something or someone was playing tricks on me. Strange occurrences seemed to surround me, yet I had no hand in them. For instance, there were times when I would struggle to unlock my phone for hours only to have it suddenly accept the possible passcode that had failed before. Furthermore, my mother persistently nagged me about putting away my muddy shoes incorrectly and damaging things, even though I never committed such an offense. I always left them out and wiped off all the dirt, and it struck me as bizarre that this happened twice when I hadn't even been outdoors in a month. However, today's events took the strangeness to an entirely new level. My mother had left the house while my brother remained locked in his room. I leisurely enjoyed my dinner for approximately an hour. Yet, upon her return, my mother discovered the kitchen counters marred with deep scratches, as if someone had maliciously carved them with a knife. The gravity of the situation intensified when she mentioned that she might have to pay for the damages, considering that we were merely renting the place. At that moment, I was engrossed in my own activities in my room and had even washed my dishes, so I had no recollection of noticing anything amiss. My brother denied any involvement with the knives, and I had only used one briefly to open a package in a completely different location, far away from the counters. The situation had transformed into an enigma, with my mother quick to point a finger at me since I had been the only one out of the house during the incident. However, I found myself stuck in a paradoxical predicament. On one hand, my mother believed my innocence, acknowledging my genuine confusion regarding the strange happenings. Yet, on the other hand, she seemed to suspect that something was wrong with me, suggesting that perhaps I was forgetting my own actions. I vehemently denied any wrongdoing and insisted that nothing was awry in terms of my memory. I knew that I never caused problems, especially after being specifically instructed not to. Despite my genuine confusion, my mother's lingering doubts persisted, leaving me in a perplexing state of frustration. The incidents kept recurring, continuously implicating me as the epicenter of the mysterious events. Yet deep down, I knew that I was not the one responsible. It was an agonizing experience to be held accountable for circumstances beyond my control. The uncertainty surrounding these occurrences weighed heavily on me, as I searched for answers that seemed to elude me at every turn. I longed to vindicate myself and put an end to this perplexing saga. The need to prove my innocence and reclaim my peace of mind became my relentless pursuit. I refused to succumb to the notion that there was something inherently wrong with me, for I knew in my heart that I was not the forgetful or the careless one that they were telling. It was crucial to uncover the truth and expose the hidden force behind these inexplicable events. As days turned into weeks, my determination only grew stronger. I became increasingly vigilant, monitoring every movement within our household, hoping to catch a glimpse of the elusive culprit. I scoured every nook and cranny, searching for any semblance of evidence that could shed light on the situation. The peculiar incidents had consumed my thoughts and actions, becoming the focal point of my existence. Friends and family watched as my relentless pursuit consumed me, expressing concern for my well-being. They advised to let me go and move on, but I couldn't bear the thought of being forever labeled as the one causing these inexplicable problems. I yearned for a resolution that would restore harmony within our family, allowing us to once again coexist without any suspicion or blame. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months, yet the source of these peculiar events remained concealed, like a phantom lurking in the shadows. I exhausted every conceivable explanation, contemplating the existence of the supernatural forces or unseen entities orchestrating this elaborate charade. The once simple notion of a misunderstanding had transformed into a complex enigma, challenging my sanity and resilience. Amidst the chaos and uncertainty, one thing remained unwavering: my determination to uncover the truth. The mysterious incidents had not only disrupted our daily lives, but also deepened the rift within our family. I yearned to restore the trust that I had once eroded by these inexplicable events and reunite us under the banner of understanding and acceptance. In my quest for answers, I sought professional assistance, consulting experts in the field of paranormal phenomena and psychological mysteries. They delved deep into the intricacies of my mind, probing the depths of my subconscious in an attempt to unravel the tangled threads of this perplexing tapestry. Countless therapy sessions, hypnosis, and exhaustive examinations ensued as we embarked on a journey to unlock the secrets buried within. Days turned into months and months into years as the investigation intensified. The persistent efforts of the experts finally bore fruit when they stumbled upon a breakthrough. Through a meticulous analysis of my subconscious mind, they unraveled the existence of a dissociative identity disorder, a condition that had long gone unnoticed. It turned out that within the depths of my own psyche resided an alter ego, an alternate personality that had been orchestrating these bizarre incidents. This dormant side of me, unknown and untamed, would seize control during periods of stress and anxiety, wreaking havoc in a desperate attempt to assert its existence. The alter ego, desperate to be acknowledged, would engage in these disruptive acts, leaving behind a trail of confusion and discord. Armed with this newfound knowledge, a comprehensive treatment plan was devised to integrate and reconcile the conflicting facets of my identity. Through a combination of therapy, medication, and unwavering support from my loved ones, I embarked on a journey of self-discovery and healing. The process was arduous, fraught with challenges and setbacks, but I remained resolute, driven by the desire to regain control over my life. Gradually, the incidents subsided as I gained mastery over the alter ego and its disruptive tendencies. The scratches on the countertops ceased to appear, the misplaced blame dissolved, and a newfound sense of tranquility settled upon our household. We embarked on a collective healing journey, rebuilding the fractured bonds of trust and understanding that had been shattered by the enigma that plagued us for far too long. Looking back on that perplexing chapter of my life, I'm reminded of the resilience of the human spirit and the power of love and support. The inexplicable incidents, once a source of turmoil, became a catalyst for growth and self-discovery. They served as a reminder that sometimes the most profound mysteries reside within our own minds, waiting patiently to be unveiled and embraced. Today, as I reflect upon my journey, I'm grateful for the twists and turns that led me to a place of clarity and understanding. The trials and tribulations ultimately shaped me into a stronger individual, armed with the knowledge that even amidst the most bewildering circumstances, there's always a path forward, a path that leads to self-acceptance, forgiveness, and the restoration of harmony within oneself and the world around us.